Hello and welcome to Real Person Reviews. I'm Sam and I'm a real person. And today I want to talk to you about Star Wars Battlefront 2, the old one from 2005. Now, this is a sequel to Star Wars Battlefront, the old one from 2004. So I already reviewed that, so I'm going to assume with this review that you're familiar with either, you've seen that review or you're, familiar with the first game, so I don't have to re-explain everything here because the basics are kind of the same. It's still built around the same idea of go around, try to kill everybody to reduce the reinforcement count to zero, and try to capture all the command posts. That's still like the heart of the game thing that you're doing. But it's going to be more about what you're getting here in the sequel and some of the comparisons here between the two. And just for the disclaimer that I have, you're going to be seeing footage and stuff and talking a bit about this one. This is the Xbox version that's being played on the Xbox Series X. So it's probably going to be like a little enhanced. For it's going to be a little smoother, look a little nicer than when I originally played it. But I did originally play it a lot on the PlayStation 2, so it's coming from both angles a little bit here. But yeah, let's just get started, I guess. So while a lot of the core gameplay stuff here is pretty similar, they have made some changes even to some of the core elements of here. The objectives are the same, really, but they've added in some stuff here. For one thing, a lot of stuff is just a lot faster now. This just has more of a pace to it. Projectiles move faster. Seems like explosions happen quicker, and you just move at a higher rate. So it's overall a faster game. They've also added in the ability to like sprint and roll with like the stamina meter, and it also means like there's a pickup you can get if you kill people. Sometimes it'll be like health and ammo drops. Now sometimes it'll be like a little stamina drop to refill that instantly as well. Um, and they've also added in this like little reward system where if you like say get enough kills with a certain weapon or just get enough kills in general, just do certain tasks, you will get some kind of reward, be that a reward weapon, or maybe some kind of just a stat boost for temporarily. And getting these medals enough times, basically, if you get enough of that medal over the course of all you're playing, you get it enough times. Eventually, you'll be ranking up your medal all the way to legendary. At which point, you'll just get that buff or award, whatever, right away when you start the match. So that's a new element. Also now, all of the factions have their four standard classes that are basically the same. The four standard units across the board, but then every faction has two unique units, and these actually have to be unlocked. So like something like like a Wookiee for the rebels, or like a Droideka for like the droids. Like you can't use them right away. You have to get enough points to use them, and you get points by getting kills, taking command posts, blowing up vehicles. Speaking of blowing stuff up, there's also like some destructible parts of levels. You can take out some bridges or destroy barricades and things like that. And so yeah, you get enough points, you can unlock those and start using those classes for during that match. Also, they've changed the way the heroes work. Remember, like instant action heroes? Well, they have like these hero characters here. They're heroes and villains, and the way they work is that basically you get enough points and then you have the ability to use them. They'll give you the offer, do you want to use this hero or whatever, and you say yes or no. And even the computers can use them as well. And if you do that, you can play them, and you can be it could be Luke Skywalker, it could be Darth Vader, Boba Fett, Han Solo, whatever. Sometimes you have lightsabers and using the Force. Sometimes you've got special weapons that only like these heroes get. But the thing that's really different about them is that instead of having a standard health bar, they have this big blue lightsaber that works as both a health bar for when they're taking damage, but also will slowly dwindle over time. And to refill it, you actually have to get kills to keep that bar topped off. So they function a little bit differently than a standard class. And once they're out for a little bit of time before they get offered to the top player again. After a cooldown period, basically. But those are still the same kind of, similar things for this the main gameplay stuff that kind of permeates throughout most of the game. Um, and then there's also there is a new type of battle that shows up here. Instead of just having these regular ground battles, there are now space battles. So with these, you're in these big capital ships. Each team has a capital ship, and then you can fly fighters out, like fighters and bombers. Um, and the goal is to get enough points to win. And you get points by taking down enemy fighters or destroying systems on the enemy capital ship. So taking out like shields and engines and things. These can be destroyed from the outside of the ship using your ships, or if you can actually land in their hangar, go in and start blowing up systems from the inside as well. So there's a few ways to go about that. Um, that's generally the idea of space battles, is trying to take out all of the little ships and the capital ships and just get the most points to get the set amount of points in time in order to win. Um, let's see. There are also, for some other modes here, in instant action, there's a menu to tweak some of the settings and stuff in instant action if you want to do, different some different rules, or whatever, and change some of the values of stuff. You have a little more flexibility there, and there are a few different types of things you can do here as well. You can pick from all of these maps, and on these maps you can do things like, there's a lot of standard battles with whoever, the conquest battles. There are also capture the flag battles, which can either be one flag or two flag capture the flag. And the only thing to really mention with those is that, I guess, it seems like with two flag capture the flag, it doesn't matter if somebody has your flag. I think you can still score even if your flag is away and you get the enemy flag back. That seemed to be my experience, but it could have just been happenstance that our flag was always back when I did it. But that's what I believe that's how that worked. But otherwise, it's pretty standard capture the flag stuff. There's also a mode called Hunt, where basically you play on a planet and play either as the indigenous species, like Wampas on Hoth, or as like Ewoks on Endor, and then play as or you can play as the hunters, I guess, basically the team of like probably an existing factions, usually with limited characters like a sharpshooter or something. And it's just, again, it's another score attack race to see who can get their score to the score cap first. Is basically the idea. There's also an assault mode, which is where you can pick between heroes or villains, and it's just a bunch of all the hero characters and then just all the villain characters facing off against each other. All this in one map. There's the only characters that can exist there. And I will say on this that originally you could only do this in Mos Eisley, but apparently with some DLC stuff or whatever that is available in the Xbox backwards compatible version, you can get some of these bonus levels where there's a few other levels where they'll let you do it there as well. And they add a couple of characters to it, but it's still basically the same concept of, just play as all the different heroes or all the different villains and try to beat all the other ones, right? That's the idea. Galactic Conquest returns as well, but this time it is a bit different. This time there is a map where you can actually move around this big map. You build a fleet and you send it around. The enemy has a fleet and they take turns. You take turns moving around parts of the map, trying to conquer all of the planets. Same deal there. So if you land on a planet, you can do a ground battle. If your fleets touch each other on the same spot on the map, then it initiates a space battle. If you lose a battle that you initiated the attack on there, like basically if you lose a battle with your ship, your fleet gets destroyed, but you can build a new one for free. Additional fleets can be built with credits. Credits you get from doing battles. Whether you win or lose, you do still get credits for whether you win or lose. You just get more if you win. And also, having more planets nets you more bonus credits for that. So the more that you have, the more they're going to accumulate over time. The credits also can be used for buying different units of characters, different classes. So you start off with just the soldier, but you can and a pilot, and then you can buy things like the marine or your your special units. You can buy the snipers, whatever. You can buy those there. You can also use them to buy bonuses because they're not planetary bonuses anymore. Now they are just regular bonuses. You just buy them. You can hold up to 3 at a time, and you can buy those and use them as you see fit. Some only work in ground battles, some only work in space battles, some work in both. But yeah, you have the option to buy those as well. And again, it's the same idea of trying to capture all the planets, eradicate the threat of the enemy, and once you own everything, you've conquered the galaxy, you win. And then here, the story mode is a bit different as well. Rise of the Empire. There is also a couple training modes that here they throw in there just to get you used to them. You actually play them to get used to doing, ground combat, space combat kind of stuff. But they have Rise of the Empire as a story. And unlike the first game, which was just basically using the movies as sort of a backdrop to just do standard battles, here you actually are following the 501st, a special unit group, a legion of elite troopers. Originally in the Clone Army, they're part of the Republic Army. Then they eventually become Imperial Stormtroopers later on. They kind of have the transition happen. And so it follows some events of the movies. It also has some stuff that happens between the films. And it's kind of the stuff around here that you obviously that you could show that shows them winning. Because obviously if they're just losing, then you would die and the story would be done. But the difference here also is that as you're going through and doing these things and having some narration and some story and some in-game cinematics and such thrown in there, telling more of an original narrative that fits in with the lore, extended universe stuff. Along with that, the actual stuff you're doing in these levels is not just standard battles. It's not simple standard battles. It's actually different, where you're doing objective to objective. A lot of these are going to be some different layouts and overall, it's going to flow differently than a standard battle. So it is more unique in that sense. It's not just doing these battles with that backdrop. And as far as enjoying stuff about the game, good things, we'll start there. I think this is really good. I think this makes it really interesting, especially the stuff seeing things between where we're going here, right? Seeing stuff from the movies makes sense, but also having these things where it's you're not just doing the standard battles. You're going up oh, we need to do this now because of this. Now we need to go do this, and there'll be some different matchups of seeing clones versus droids, or not droids, seeing clones versus or Imperials versus droids, or Imperials versus clones. It's interesting stuff. I was really, I thought it was really cool, and. It's just, I think they did a good job of making it seem really interesting and having the narration and story stuff. It made it feel like more of an actual story and a unique mode rather than just an excuse to kind of redress the same thing you're doing, however many times over. So that was really cool. I also, some of the main just mini things that I like here too, little touches. I like that they have your the aiming sight, the crosshairs, whatever. They have the little indicator of how much ammo you have left in your clip. They also have little dots to show if you're going to be reloading, or if you threw a grenade and reloading your grenades. They have little visual indicators there that actually are a good way to keep you focused on looking at what you're looking at, so you're not having to look at all the edges of the screen and things. It also shows if your gun is heating up, if it's the kind of gun that heats up. So I think those are really nice touches to be able to tell what you're doing without looking at the size of the screen. And shifting your focus away from the main thing you're trying to focus on. I think those were cool, and the gameplay can be pretty fast and frantic with some of this as well. I think it does make for some interesting situations. The way you are more mobile, it's easier to get around and jump and move. Taking posts is faster, so it's easier to go in and actually start taking a post, and you don't have to necessarily wait forever to take a post. It just keeps things moving at a swift pace. So that's pretty cool. It makes it feel a bit more frantic and a bit more dynamic that way. For some of the other modes here, the hunt, I really like doing especially the hunt on Hoth, for example. When it's all the different, the rebels versus the Wampas, I think that's a really cool. Some of these are just really cool in general because it's just the asymmetrical multiplayer aspect. and how it creates different scenarios than just doing the same battles against other people that are largely the same units as you. I think that's pretty cool. Um, it's like especially that one I really liked, and it just makes for some interesting extra stuff to do as well. And um, I mean, it's got some cool maps. They instead of having just two maps for every planet, they decided to have like one map per planet, except for extra DLC, whatever extra content they put in later. So it's kind of like going through and doing that. It is kind of cool to see just a larger variety of like backdrops to these planets and different levels, kinds of levels and stuff. I think these are interesting, and actually part of the thing too. It is kind of nice that they have relegated these flying ships to space battles, and then the tanks and other vehicle things to the ground levels. Because like in the first game, you had like only a few levels where the ships even like worth bothering to get into because there's enough space for them. So yeah, I guess there's that niceness here as well. Um, and I mean, yeah, it is cool also to be able to play as heroes and villains. That's kind of neat. I like. It's just fun to play around. Like, oh, I can throw lightsabers and use the force, and like just playing as iconic characters. That's interesting. And they made a way to make them like they're formidable foes. They have a lot of health. They can do a lot of damage. So you have to really focus them down, and they aren't like unstoppable or unfair either. They feel pretty well balanced with like fighting standard units as well. So I do think they did a pretty good job of implementing them in a way that's fun and satisfying without it being like overpowered or anything. Um, that being said, I do think that the hero assault map, or maps, or whatever, those are silly. They're like a fun gimmick to do like once or twice to dick around. They're a good party thing to do, but they're pretty samey and pretty uneventful. You just kind of run around, flailing around with force things and lightsabers and lightning and rockets and stuff. And it's just kind of like it doesn't really feel like much of anything. Um, Especially after a little while, it just feels kind of like it can look kind of neat, but it's like it's not great. It gets old pretty fast. Um, Similar thing with a lot of the hunts is that they're just too limited to give you a whole lot of variety. Like, for example, Geonosis is like, oh, you can play as a Geonosian with there's one pick you can do, and they have one gun with infinite ammo, and that's it. Versus clone sharpshooters, like that's not a whole lot you can necessarily do with that. So some of those are a little bit lame. They're a cool aside. They're a nice addition, but they're not all as good as like the one on Hoth, for example. Um, and I also think that oh yeah, space battles. That's a big one. Space battles are they suck. Um, there's a reason that they give you the option to skip them in the main story of the game. The space battles are not good. They're a neat concept, and it's kind of fun to do some of like the dogfighting stuff, whatever. But like again, uh, pretty much every space battle is the same. There's not a whole lot of variety in space battle because you're getting the same goals, the same kinds of basically this like a swap of like they're different looking capital ships and you know other ships that you're taking out there, but they all work pretty much the same. The way you go about it is going to be pretty much the same every time. So whatever, it's not great. Definitely gets old very fast. And you're like, okay, well that was a neat idea, but maybe there needed to be more to it or something. It's just not great. I don't know. Could have been better. Um, which is probably a big disappointment because that was a pretty big. I think that's a pretty big like selling point for some people, being like, "Oh wow, you can do space battles." I was like, "Yeah, you don't want it. You think you want it, you don't want it. Not like this." Um, and I think that like I guess like generally like there's also this thing of like the speed of it is good in some ways. It's good, um, but uh, I guess like it's also part of the thing is like well because everything is so fast, a lot of stuff feels very light and it feels less substantial, especially compared to the first game. It's like a lot of like the core gameplay just feels like yeah you're running in like you can take posts super quickly. you're pretty much just running around grabbing posts, and then all of a sudden the match is over. You're out here and like, or like you do explosions and they're done immediately. You're shooting shots, or whatever, moving around. It's just like everything happens so fast that while in some ways that is good and exciting, in other ways you're missing out on the gravity of like big tanks going through and blowing people up. You have to, you don't have the same kind of thing of like pushing through really hard to get through tough defenses or digging in to try to keep enemies off of you. It's not like the same kind of like push to really like push through and the tug of war of battle to like moving back and forth of like, we're ahead, we gotta turn the tide or whatever, and you have like there's not as much time and like weight to these things to really feel like you're making significant changes. It feels like it's just so quick that anything you do can be undone almost as quickly as you've done it, or probably exactly as quickly as you've done it, because that's how fast the game works. And I think that definitely hurt some of it overall, and just in like the sense of like the core gameplay, especially when compared to the first game. So I guess what I'm saying in general about Star Wars Battlefront 2 is that um I mean it's not as good as the first one. I mean, like, maybe that's just my opinion. I don't like it as much as the first one. That's maybe what I want to say. Because if you really like all the different like changes and things here, then you will probably like this better than the first one. I do think it's basically, I'll put it this way. This is a very good sequel. I just don't know if it's as good of a game because of that core gameplay and how that works. I guess that's maybe the fairest way I can put it. Um, I think that if you liked the first Star Wars Battlefront, you will like Battlefront 2. It is similar enough that you'll know how to play it, but it's different enough that it offers new modes and things to do, and it has some more unique features here and there that this is ultimately going to be, a good sequel for you. I think you will definitely want to check this out. You might not necessarily love all of it like I didn't. I played the shit out of the first one, and I still played a lot of this, and I still like this a lot, even if I don't like it as much as the first one. I still think it's very good. So, like, it is good. Um, it's just, I don't know if you necessarily like it as much as the first one, but you might like it more. That's really up to personal taste. I wanted to throw that out there, is that it is a good sequel, even if it's not necessarily an all around, like, better game, necessarily. Hopefully you understand what I'm saying. uh, it's good. I just didn't like it as much. But that's the general gist. And like, as far as like this version too, again, like you have the nice stuff of like it being a bit more smooth than the original, and having some of that extra content. I couldn't play anything online because these don't have that. But for online, there is. I got the Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection, which is 1 and 2. So I mean, I know there's like I have a DS Star Wars Battlefront. I know I've got the newer Battlefront and Battlefront 2 that EA did. I want to check those out as well. But the next one is probably going to just be looking at the online. I'm probably going to stream that too. The online play for the classic pack of these, because I am also. I mean, it's also going to focus on like some of the changes, but so far, like I don't think there's going to be tons of changes. It's mostly a remaster. So we'll focus more on the online aspect that I couldn't play here. That's the plan. Hopefully, you guys are interested in that. And what I would like to know in the comments, if you're still here and not bored out of your mind, what is your favorite Battlefront game and why? And particularly, which of the first two Star Wars Battlefront games do you prefer and why? Or do you like them equally but for different reasons? I think that would be really interesting to hear about from people, because I guess I've never really like looked into it to see what the general consensus is or what people think of Star Wars Battlefront 1 versus 2. And now that all these other ones are out, which one they think is like the best one. I think it's probably harder because of, is stuff still being supported, whatever, all these other extraneous factors of like they're in different time periods and stuff, but I'd be very interested. Also, I can't play the PSP stuff because I don't have a PSP. But I'm working on this. I'm doing what I can with what I have access to, and I still have access to a lot. So, I guess that's it. So we'll see the classic collection next time. And hopefully you enjoy this and it was cool and interesting. And if not, hopefully you don't report it. I don't know what you would report this for, but I mean, crazier stuff has happened before. I could see it. I could see it.